Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon. Whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schaumler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 639. Welcome in. It is very late. I guess it's either very late Thursday night, but it's really actually Friday morning now. The Friday morning immediately after the NFL draft, the 2024 first round of the NFL draft. And it was actually a very straightforward night in many ways. Like the first couple picks came and went. Caleb Williams was the number 1 quarterback drafted. The number 2 pick was Jayden Daniels. The number 3 pick was Drake May. Like, basically everything happened the way you could have predicted it happened for like the last couple months. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. And there's a lot to break down. There's a lot to talk about. Like, I can't wait to talk about Chicago. I can't wait to talk about, I think Washington actually just got an outstanding franchise quarterback with Jayden Daniels, which is really cool. I think it's going to be easy to talk about so many other things. I think what's going to get lost in all of the excitement is actually that Washington got the first outstanding quarterback in a long, long time. I really hope that doesn't get lost in the mix is that, hey, dude, if you're a Washington fan, you just got your first franchise quarterback in forever. And I'm so happy for you. Washington fans, sound off. I want to hear from you. I can't even imagine how excited you must feel right now. And Bears fans, like Chicago Bears fans, awesome. The Bears picked Caleb Williams with the number 1 overall pick, their new franchise quarterback. Then with that number 9 pick, they drafted Rome Odunze, a wonderful young receiver out of Washington. So they got another receiver, they got a franchise quarterback. And the theme of this draft was absolutely that the theme of the NFL is now an offensive-driven league. We've known that the NFL is an offense-driven league for a long time. But when you watch an NFL draft first round and 23 of the 32 picks are on the offensive side of the football, that sends a message. And when during the NFL offseason, you ban hip drop tackles, and the rules have never been more advantageous for the offensive side of the football than ever before. Basically, nobody's playing defense in the NFL anymore. Right? We saw 9 players in the first round drafted on defense, and all of those guys were defensive ends that get after the quarterback, or cornerbacks who defend receivers, and 1 defensive tackle. So running the football, the running game, all of that is just not the focus of the NFL anymore. Running backs are no longer first-round picks. Linebackers are not first-round picks anymore. Defensive tackles, we saw 1 taken off the board, and it's because he's that guy, Steele out of Texas. It's crazy. So the focus of the league now is throwing the football and how to stop guys throwing the football. And the people who are going to make big money in today's NFL from here on out until the rules change again are quarterbacks and receivers, and then everybody involved with the process of stopping them. So defensive ends and corners. And hey, we saw a lot of offensive linemen drafted. It was a really interesting draft. For me, the first 14 picks being on the offensive side of the football, that sent a very clear message. Now, I love what the Bears just did. The Bears drafted Caleb Williams. The Bears drafted Rome Odunze. There's a big question mark in Chicago, though. I don't know if you noticed this. Matt Eberflus, their head coach, is a defensive head coach. And all of the talent on that football team is on the offensive side of the football in Chicago. They got a young quarterback. They need to develop that young quarterback. We get 1 year with Matt Eberflus to see what he can do. If things don't go amazing this year, in 2024 with Caleb Williams, his rookie year, I think it's more than likely they fire Matt Eberflus and find an offensive head coach, because that is the trend the league is going in. That is what you got to do. You got to do everything you can to support Caleb Williams. And it's just fascinating. We are in an offensive era of the NFL like never before. And it really is, as you change rules and make playing defense more and more impossible. I'm very mixed up about this. I love football. I love the offensive side of the football. I played quarterback. I love it. I would never sign up to play defense in the NFL in a million years right now. It makes no sense. You're not going to get paid well. Your body's going to get beat up. The rules are fighting against you constantly. I feel bad about that for defensive players. It's very weird. Now, I went on a tangent there. I talked about Chicago and I talked about the rules. What I want to focus on actually is Atlanta. With the number 8 overall pick, the Atlanta Falcons drafted quarterback Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington. I don't know if you remember the major, massive story of this offseason when the Falcons got a new franchise quarterback, Kirk Cousins. They gave him a 4-year, $180 million contract. And you're like, oh, sweet. Washington got a quarterback, the best one they've had in a long time. At least the first franchise quarterback they've had since Matt Ryan, minimum. And they got a lot of offensive weapons around Kirk Cousins. They've got, Drake London. They traded for a receiver. They got Darnell Mooney. They got a lot of weapons. They got Kyle Pitts. They've got weapons all over around Kirk Cousins. You're really excited about it. And what do? They got the number 8 overall pick. I was thinking, man, I am so excited to see what the Falcons do to build around Kirk Cousins. Because right now, you look at the NFC South and you go, Carolina's got a lot to figure out. And Tampa, they're solid. Like, they're okay, but they lost a bunch of their starters. Tampa's really in a rebuilding phase, kind of retooling things. They got Baker Mayfield. They like him. The Saints have a lot to prove. Like, right now, it could not be more clear. It's the Falcons' division to lose this year in the NFC South. And their general manager, Terry Fontenot, it's funny. He's a Louisiana guy. Went to high school in Lake Charles in Louisiana, went to Tulane in New Orleans, was the general manager of the New Orleans Saints for a long, long time. Someone's got to tell Terry Fontenot, hey, by the way, dude, do you realize you're now no longer trying to win the division for the New Orleans Saints? You're actually now trying to win the division for Atlanta? I don't want to come across as too much of a hater. Watching Michael Penix Jr. get drafted number 8 overall yesterday was hilarious and shocking and weird. Because why solve a problem you don't have? You already got a franchise quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Why'd you draft Michael Penix Jr.? I don't get it. Doesn't make sense to me. I thought they should have used that draft pick to go get a player who could help them win the division this year. I thought they were trying to win Super Bowls with Kirk Cousins. That's just me. Now, the GM, Terry Fontenot of the Atlanta Falcons, came out and said, look, Kirk Cousins is our quarterback. Michael Penix Jr. is our future. I understand the thought process there. Where was Jordan? Let me double check something real quick. Jordan Love was drafted by the Green Bay Packers while they still had a really incredible quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. They drafted Jordan Love with the 26th overall pick. I think using the 26th overall pick to get a quarterback when you already have a quarterback, that makes sense. That's a wise investment. I get that. Okay, yeah. Does it suck a little bit? You'd rather use that pick to help your team win now? Sure. Is that player that you drafted, Jordan Love, going to sit for a while? Yes. But when you draft a quarterback with the 26th overall pick, it's a little different than number 8 overall in the top 10. I am shocked they drafted Michael Penix Jr. The reason I want to be measured here is I remember being really supportive of the Green Bay Packers drafting Jordan Love. Well, everyone, even good friends of mine who are Packers fans, Tom Grassi, love you, bud, but dude, I remember saying Jordan Love is a genius draft pick by the Green Bay Packers, and now they got a franchise quarterback. His name is Jordan Love. It's awesome. It worked out for them. I don't want to be the guy who is smashing and trashing on Michael Penix Jr. because I think he could work out. I think it's very possible that he becomes a franchise quarterback down the road in Atlanta, actually, which in that case, then the pick, although bizarre and although unnecessary, makes sense. As long as Michael Penix Jr. becomes the franchise quarterback eventually in Atlanta, this pick can always be justified. However, the pressure's mounting. You just signed a franchise quarterback, Kirk Cousins, to a 4-year, $180 million deal. You locked down Kirk Cousins and made a decision to say, we're going to try to win with Kirk. So then what do? You support Kirk. You do everything you can to win a Super Bowl with him. You don't spend your top 10 pick on another quarterback who, if things go well, isn't going to play for 4 years. That doesn't make any sense to me. You can talk me into it. I try to be open-minded about these things, and look, I can understand the logic, and if down the road, again, Michael Penix Jr. could become a really good quarterback in Atlanta, and then all of this conversation is nonsense because you're like, well, did it suck that they didn't draft a player that could help them win now? Yeah, but at least they're winning now, and they got Michael Penix Jr., so you can talk me into it. But man, there was only one draft pick literally all night. I mean, really, there's 2 moves I want to criticize from last night. This is one of them. The Atlanta Falcons drafting Michael Penix Jr., number 8 overall, was redundant. It was weird. It was, again, I want to be measured. I really do. But I just thought that the NFC South division is wide open. Teams are, I mean, everyone's begging Atlanta to win that division. Like they've got the best roster. I think they've got a really good coaching staff. The teams they're competing against in that division are not very good. And they shot themselves in the foot by, instead of drafting a player that could help them win now, they drafted a quarterback who theoretically is going to sit for 2, 3, maybe 4 years not playing, which is a wild, baffling decision to me that I do not understand. So, good luck, Atlanta. Falcons fans, please tell me how you feel. I want to hear from you guys. I want to know how that draft pick made you feel, because I watched that and went, oh my goodness. That doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. It's very weird. I even, literally, I have a note here. I'm looking at my notes from earlier. Watching Jayden Daniels get drafted, I literally said, Atlanta drafting a quarterback would be a huge mistake. And then what did they do? They drafted Michael Penix Jr. I want to say, watching Jayden Daniels get drafted by Washington yesterday was very cool. And you know what it really made me think of? I encourage people, look, this is a lot of work. If you really want to, go back and watch me talking about Jayden Daniels when he was at Arizona State. I loved Jayden Daniels back then. I thought he was awesome, had a ton of potential. But he was in a bad situation at Arizona State. He transfers from Arizona State, goes to LSU. Balls out. Plays incredible, wins a Heisman Trophy, raises his draft stock. You know what that journey makes me think of, actually? Weird sidestep here. It makes me think of Cameron Ward, the quarterback who was most recently at Washington State. He's now transferred to Miami. How is Cameron Ward going to do at Miami? With a better program, with more of a spotlight. I think Cameron Ward could have a very similar journey to what Jayden Daniels just did. When Jayden Daniels, a couple of years ago, was at Arizona State, he was not viewed as a first-round pick at all. Goes to LSU, kills it, plays incredible, and raises his draft stock a ton. Makes people aware of how good he is, gets better as a quarterback. I think a similar thing could happen with Cameron Ward at Miami this fall. I think Cameron Ward's going to go from a guy who's like a third, fourth, maybe fifth-round pick to probably a top 10 quarterback, top 10 pick in the draft in 2025. Cameron Ward is that good, that explosive, and what he can do in Miami, highlighted with great players around him, highlighted with more of a spotlight. I think Cameron Ward's going to have a similar journey to what Jayden Daniels had, going from Arizona State to Louisiana State and winning a Heisman Trophy. And I think Cameron Ward should be considered a Heisman Trophy candidate, or a Heisman Trophy favorite even, at Miami right now. I know that's outlandish, but that's the journey I see, a very similar one. The Jayden Daniels storyline, him getting drafted by Washington, number 2 overall, winning a Heisman Trophy after a couple years ago being an afterthought. That journey to raise your draft stock is the same journey I see for Cameron Ward at Miami. Man, the Vikings got a quarterback. They drafted J.J. McCarthy. I think that's awesome. It's really wild that this year's NFL draft had 6 quarterbacks drafted in the top 12 picks. The top 14 picks were all offensive players. Let's go down. Let's talk about what happened. So the number 1 overall pick was Caleb Williams out of USC, going to Chicago. Then you had Jayden Daniels drafted number 2 overall with Washington. Drake May drafted number 3 overall, a quarterback out of North Carolina, to the New England Patriots. You had, and let's just talk about quarterbacks here, because then you had Michael Penix Jr. drafted number 8 overall. J.J. McCarthy drafted number 10 overall. And Bo Nix drafted number 12 overall. Bo Nix went to Denver. J.J. McCarthy went to Minnesota. And Michael Penix Jr. obviously went to Atlanta. 6 quarterbacks in the top 12 picks of the NFL draft is, first of all, that's wild. But second of all, they're not all going to work. I don't like saying that. One of my favorite things about the NFL draft is that it's a very hopeful time. Everyone's building and developing and dreaming of their future. Unfortunately, though, mathematically, not all 6 of those quarterbacks is going to succeed and going to work out. I think Caleb Williams is going to work. I actually think Jayden Daniels is going to work. I really like the odds of J.J. McCarthy having an outstanding career in Minnesota, given what's around him. Given, man, you got Kevin O'Connell coaching, a former NFL quarterback. You've got Justin Jefferson. You've got T.J. Hawkinson. You've got Jordan Addison. You've got Aaron Jones, a running back who used to play in Green Bay. You've got weapons all around J.J. McCarthy, a ton of support. He doesn't have to play immediately because they got Sam Darnold on the roster. I feel good about J.J. McCarthy. So the three quarterbacks that I am concerned about, Drake Maye to New England. Drake Maye, man, didn't do great last year without a lot of help. The big knock on Drake Maye last year was he was forcing it. He's really competitive, and without a lot of help around him, he made some bad decisions and some bad throws trying to win games. But like I said, 2 years ago, Drake Maye was outstanding. People loved him. He's a top 10 pick, and everyone said, oh, maybe he's the number one pick over Caleb Williams, actually. We saw him play last year at North Carolina without a lot of great players around him, and he took a step backward. He wasn't as good. So if Drake Maye wasn't as good with less help, what's going to happen in New England where, man, the Patriots do not have a lot of help around their young quarterback, Drake Maye? He's going to have the same problems he dealt with last year in college at North Carolina. Not a lot of explosive players, not a lot of help, a new coaching staff. I mean, the odds are heavily stacked against Drake Maye, unfortunately. He's really talented, and maybe he's the franchise quarterback in New England. I would love to see that. But if one guy is going to fail, I think the odds are stacked heavily against Drake Maye. That's not great. Michael Penix Jr. goes in that bucket of another guy I think has potential to fail, just given the situation. He's drafted behind Kirk Cousins. They gave him a 4-year, $180 million contract. I can't tell if that helps or hurts him. I have no idea. And then Bo Nix is a player who I think he fits really well in Denver. I feel Drake Maye is the quarterback I feel most concerned about. He's really talented. He's got potential. He's got the ability to work out for sure. I am concerned about the support around Drake Maye letting him down in New England. Michael Penix Jr., it's a huge, red flag. He's not going to play for a while. Maybe that hurts him. Maybe that helps him. I have no idea. It's just an awkward situation to go into. Bo Nix is going to be expected to play pretty quickly, I believe, in Denver under Sean Payton. They like him. They view him as their franchise quarterback. The quotes that Sean Payton is giving, comparing him to saying, like, I like him as much as Patrick Mahomes when Patrick Mahomes is coming out of Texas Tech. It's quite a comparison. But there's a lot of pressure on Bo Nix to succeed in Denver. And there's not been a lot of success recently in Denver. I'm concerned about that. So I think the three quarterbacks I feel great about, I think Caleb Williams is going to work. It may not work year one. They might need a new head coach, maybe get an offensive head coach. But I feel Caleb Williams, long-term, 5 years from now, we're going to say that was a great pick, number one overall. Jayden Daniels, that's a home run. I love Jayden Daniels a ton. He can run. He can throw. His skill set's incredible. He's arguable. I think you could actually make an argument Jayden Daniels as a better passer in the pocket. He might be better at winning from the pocket than Caleb Williams is, who went number one overall. And then I love J.J. McCarthy to Minnesota. J.J. McCarthy, specifically only in Minnesota, is a place I feel great. I don't feel great about J.J. McCarthy going to the Raiders or Denver or, I don't know, Atlanta. A lot of, the Giants, I would have felt weird about J.J. McCarthy. But J.J. McCarthy to Minnesota, given the environment he's going to, given the support they've got around him, I feel great about that. So three quarterbacks I feel great about. Three quarterbacks, Bo Nix to Denver, Michael Penix Jr. to Atlanta, and then most concerningly is Drake Maye to New England, just given the lack of players and support and talent around him. Three quarterbacks I love. Three quarterbacks I got question marks about. It'll be really fun 5 years from now to look back and go, how did that work out? Was it good? Was it bad? Who did well? Who didn't? The Raiders, who really, really won this draft? I almost said the Raiders, but actually, the guy who I think benefited the most from the first round, at least as far as job security goes, is Raiders quarterback Gardner Minshew, right? Nobody expected 6 quarterbacks to get drafted in the top 12 picks. I think the Raiders were banking on, hey, we got the number 13 overall pick. We got 6 good quarterbacks in this draft. One of them will be available by the time we're ready to draft. Unfortunately, Atlanta kind of screwed everything up, and the Raiders did not get their guy. I think they were waiting, hoping they would get Michael Penix Jr. actually, and be able to draft number 13 overall. Honestly, I think everything worked out pretty well for the Raiders. I think that you got a pretty solid quarterback, Gardner Minshew, a guy you love, a guy you can embrace. You got Brock Bowers. They drafted Brock Bowers, a tight end out of Georgia, number 13 overall. That's like a home run. I think to get a player the quality of Brock Bowers, a tight end who I think could become a George Kittle, Travis Kelce level tight end who's just going to destroy people and become a top 3 tight end in football. I don't want to over exaggerate here, but I think there's potential Brock Bowers becomes literally like a Hall of Fame level tight end. I know that's wild, but to get a player of that caliber, number 13 overall, is pretty rare and very, very cool. So the Raiders got a great player. They already had a quarterback, Gardner Minshew. I think Gardner Minshew benefits a ton now. He gets, not only does he not have a quarterback to compete against, so they didn't get a guy for Gardner Minshew to compete against, but they also got him a new weapon to throw to. Like, everyone wins. I think the Raiders actually walk away in a very interesting, advantageous spot. I really, really like that. Malik Nabers was drafted number 6 overall by the Giants. That's a really awesome receiver. Everyone was saying the Giants are going to move on from Daniel Jones, maybe get competition at the quarterback spot. Given the options they had, Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy, or Bo Nix, none of those guys fit what the Giants are doing, in my opinion. And I think Malik Nabers is outstanding. A lot of people would argue Malik Nabers, the receiver out of LSU, is actually better than Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think you can argue the Giants got the best receiver in the draft, number 6 overall. They're going to help try to support their young quarterback, Daniel Jones. He's not really young anymore. He's definitely going to need to, he's got to do well this year or else it's over for him. But I'm really glad. I actually like the draft pick the Giants had. I'm curious. I wonder what Giants fans think about it, but I like Malik Nabers, number 6 overall by the Giants. I mentioned it briefly. Marvin Harrison Jr. got drafted by Arizona, number 4 overall. They got a new receiver. Most people believe he was the best receiver in the draft. I think you're splitting hairs between him and Malik Nabers. They're both awesome. They're both a nightmare to cover one-on-one. The Chargers drafted a tackle, Joe Alt. They're going to move him to right tackle out of Notre Dame. I love that pick. Jim Harbaugh comes in, drafts an offensive lineman. Of course he did. And they're supporting. There was like a narrative that maybe the Chargers are going to trade Justin Herbert. That was never going to happen. That was insanity. I don't know why anyone ever even entertained that idea. But yeah, the Chargers got Justin Herbert, another offensive lineman, particularly a right tackle to help support him. I love that completely. I still think they need a receiver, but maybe it's a question for later down the road in the draft. But I looked through the draft, and I've hit on most of the main themes, which is clearly we're an offense-driven league. Number 18 overall, the Bengals drafted a tackle. Pittsburgh drafted an offensive lineman. We saw the Packers draft an offensive lineman. We saw Tampa do that too. We saw the Cowboys draft an offensive tackle. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Like, offensive tackles and offensive linemen were flying off the board. No linebackers drafted. No running backs drafted. There's one more thing, though, I want to really, I don't know if criticize is the right word. I want to question about the first round of the draft. We saw the Buffalo Bills had the number 28 overall pick. And what did I talk about going into I talked about this on, what was it, Tuesday's episode when I talked about what I want to see. Maybe it was Wednesday's episode when I said I really want to see the Buffalo Bills trade up and go get a receiver in the first round. Not only did the Bills not trade up, they didn't draft a receiver, they didn't make a single pick in the first round of the NFL draft. They traded down twice, and they traded down both times, allowing other teams to go draft a receiver. So Buffalo had the number 28 overall pick. They traded down with Kansas City, which is weird, by the way, because that's like I think their number one competition in the AFC, actually. Every year in the playoffs, that's who they kind of seem to run into. They traded with Kansas City. They allowed the Chiefs to draft Xavier Worthy, the fastest receiver of all time at the NFL Combine. That's weird. I guess the Bills didn't want a new offensive weapon. I don't really get that. So then they got the number 32 overall pick. What was supposed to happen was Carolina was supposed to draft first in the second round. Carolina traded up one spot with Buffalo. Buffalo had the 32nd pick. Carolina had the 33rd pick. They trade up one spot, and Carolina drafts Xavier Legette, the receiver out of South Carolina, which is interesting because there was a whole conversation. Xavier Legette said, look, The Carolina Panthers told me they really want to draft me. I guess clearly they did, but that's not the focus here. The focus is not once, but twice the Bills traded down and allowed another team to draft a receiver. I don't get it. You trade away Stephon Diggs to Houston, and you do nothing at all to replace him. Like Brian Thomas Jr. was drafted number 23 overall, the number 2 receiver out of LSU by Jacksonville. I love that pick. I thought that was who Buffalo was going to trade up and go get. The lack of activity, the lack of aggression by Buffalo is weird to me. I don't get it. I've got a lot of questions. I mean, surely they collected a couple mid-round picks by trading down, but I just I don't really understand the strategy. I don't know what they're doing. It really further supports my belief that they're just totally rebuilding in Buffalo, actually. Like, they don't even want first-round picks. They want to just collect as many mid-round picks as they can. But I found myself very, very disappointed that, in fact, we did not see the Buffalo Bills draft a receiver in the first round. So, Bills fans, how are you feeling? Talk to me. Your team didn't make a pick. You didn't draft a receiver. You traded down a bunch. Bills fans, how do you feel? Chicago Bears fans, talk to me, man. How excited do you feel? Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, that's got to be awesome. I want to hear from Washington fans. I bet you're like stoked. You got your franchise quarterback, Jaden Daniels. Patriots fans, I'm sorry. I think that I imagine very much Patriots fans are excited. They feel like they got their new franchise quarterback. My logic on not being as excited as you guys is this. Not every one of those guys drafted, the 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, they're not all going to work. Which one do I kind of think's got the most struggle, the biggest uphill battle? It's Drake May in New England with not a lot of weapons around him, a new coaching staff. It's going to be tough for him. So I don't mean to rain on your parade. I don't mean to steal your joy. I don't mean to crap all over a thing you're excited about. I'm just telling you, I'm like, we'll see what happens. I'm concerned about Drake May and the lack of support around him. It's part of why I think Mac Jones failed, honestly. Mac Jones was a former first-round pick the Patriots made, and he never really had great weapons around him. And so him failing and ultimately getting traded away to Jacksonville, I felt like he never really got supported enough. And Mac Jones made a lot of mistakes, and I think showed minimal effort at times and really didn't help himself. But I want to see the Patriots do everything they can to support Drake May, and I currently don't think they've got enough weapons around him to be super confident he's going to succeed year one as a rookie. I want to be very thorough here. Do I have any notes left? Seattle made a really interesting pick. I thought they were going to draft Dallas Turner, the pass rusher out of Alabama. They instead drafted Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle out of Texas. Weird pick, but I'm glad. Either way, what I wanted from Seattle is I wanted to see them draft on the defensive side of the football, particularly their defensive line. They got Mike McDonald, a new defensive head coach. He's young. He's got really, I think, innovative ideas on the defensive side of the football. It's the rare time you'll see me get excited about a defensive coach with a defensive philosophy. And, I've been watching, I live in the Northwest. I've watched a lot of Seattle Seahawks football games. Their defensive line is always a concern. I really wish they could have gotten a pass rusher. I thought Dallas Turner was the pick, but they draft Byron Murphy, a defensive tackle out of Texas. Fair enough. That's sure. Works for me. But then Minnesota is the team. They traded back up to go get Dallas Turner, the defensive end out of Alabama. What a great draft by Minnesota, man. You got your franchise quarterback. You got a really good pass rusher to replace Danielle Hunter. If you're a Vikings fan today, I would imagine Vikings fans, you guys feel great, right? You guys are very excited. I would think that everything that went down in the first round was very, very advantageous for you. People will probably comment on, the Vikings had the number 11 pick and the Jets had the number 10 pick. They swapped. The Vikings gave up a couple mid-round picks to move up and go get J.J. McCarthy, to move up literally one spot to get him. I have no problem with that. Here's why. J.J. McCarthy, if he becomes your franchise quarterback, he's absolutely worth a couple mid-round picks to move up one spot. And if you feel that strongly about a guy, about a quarterback, And you saw Michael Penix Jr. get drafted number 8 overall, meaning that you do the math, Minnesota want a quarterback. We know Denver wants a quarterback. We think the Raiders want a quarterback. There's 2 good quarterbacks left and 3 teams that want one. Let's not run the risk of maybe the Raiders or Denver moving up and going to get the guy we want number 10 overall. Let's just make a move ourselves. Let's go get our quarterback. Let's give up a little bit to get a guy that we feel great about. I think the Vikings did the right thing trading up to go get J.J. McCarthy. I love it. I'm really interested in it. And then getting Dallas Turner, man, it's possible. Look, Dallas Turner's got a lot of developing to do with pass rush moves and little stuff. He's very raw as a prospect. But long term, it's possible the Vikings got the best pass rusher in the draft, straight up, which is, I mean, I thought when we saw who drafted Laiatu Latu is a defensive end that got drafted number 15 overall by the Colts. I thought for sure they were going to draft Dallas Turner right there. When that didn't happen, and then when Seattle didn't get him, I was like, oh my, is he really, how far is he going to fall? And Minnesota said, we're going to go back and get him immediately. And I love that trade. I love that move. Minnesota had a really outstanding first round of this draft on Thursday. I'm sorry, Jared Verse, the defensive end, fell to the 19th overall pick to the Rams. I think that's a kind of a steal, actually. That's really all I got to say, man. Again, the theme of this draft was offense. You know, we haven't commented. The 49ers drafted Ricky Pearsall, the receiver out of Florida. That's a guy who can play, man. Ricky Pearsall, he made a couple catches last year at Florida where you're like, whoa. I watched Florida play Utah early on in the year, and he just grabs your attention, man. Really, Ricky Pearsall is incredible. I think he's going to be, I just can't imagine that the 49ers aren't going to find a really, really good way to use him. Kyle Shanahan, that offense, it's another weapon for them. Man, I don't know. Ricky Pearsall is 6'1". He's a light little guy. I think he's going to end up being kind of like a Wes Welker type player in that system. We'll see how they use him, but it's a really talented receiver going to the 49ers. Another weapon for them, which is dangerous and wild and really, really interesting. I don't know, man. I really enjoyed the first round of this draft. It was awesome. It was fun. It's such a fun event. I mean, I hope everyone walks away from the first round of this draft feeling hopeful, feeling excited. And again, I really want to hear from Falcons fans. How do you guys feel? Because I feel so conflicted. I like Michael Penix Jr. I really do. I don't want to be the guy attacking him and saying, what a waste of a pick, but I'm not saying it. I'm thinking it a little bit. I'm like, man, I think you had an opportunity to go get a pass rusher, to go get a player who's going to make an impact immediately in Atlanta. And instead you draft Michael Penix Jr., who's going to sit for a while. I mean, what if Atlanta drafted, oh my gosh, I mean, they could have drafted Rome Odunze. They could have drafted Brock Bowers. They could have drafted Dallas Turner. They could have drafted so many players who would have made an impact week 1 in Atlanta, and instead they drafted Michael Penix Jr. So Falcons fans, talk to me. How do you feel? But all in all, the theme of this draft was, hey, throwing wins games. Quarterbacks are off the board. Receivers are off the board. Tackles are off the board. And edge rushers are off the board. So anybody involved in throwing the football, the guys protecting the quarterback, the guys catching passes from the quarterback, the guys trying to tackle the quarterback. Oh, and the quarterbacks themselves. Everything in this draft, first round, revolved around the quarterback position. And now that we know where the top 6 quarterbacks went, the next guy probably to get drafted will be Spencer Rattler. And I would imagine the Raiders, actually, given they didn't get a quarterback on day 1 of the draft, they're probably going to draft Spencer Rattler in the 2nd or 3rd round. And I wouldn't wait till the 3rd round. I think the Raiders, if they want a quarterback that can compete, maybe, you got to draft Spencer Rattler in the 2nd round. And if you wait till the 3rd round, he probably, very likely, will not be there. The Raiders tomorrow have the 12th pick of the 2nd round. That's probably going to be Spencer Rattler. There's no other team that would make sense for them to draft a quarterback. Like Buffalo doesn't need a quarterback. The Patriots don't need a quarterback. Arizona, Washington, LA, the Chargers, Tennessee, Carolina, Washington, Packers, Houston, Atlanta. the Raiders, unless someone trades up ahead of them, are probably going to draft, I would imagine, Spencer Rattler with the 12th pick of the second round. And if they don't, then I would imagine the Giants will with the 15th pick of the second round. So interesting there. And do the Giants leapfrog? Like, what is the market like for Spencer Rattler? Am I too high on him? I have no idea, but I think he's far and away the very best quarterback that's going to be drafted next tomorrow, probably. So I'm fascinated where Spencer Rattler goes. That's the next big question mark of this draft. And I think the teams that could target him, the Raiders, New York, or the Giants, and the LA Rams are all in the conversation, I believe. And then maybe, here's a weird thought. What if Miami made a move to go get Spencer Rattler? Miami, maybe Dallas. Those are all teams in the market for Spencer Rattler. But after that, no, Dallas is really a reach. The Dolphins have a quarterback. They probably wouldn't. But the Giants, oh man. Would New Orleans go get Spencer Rattler? That's an interesting conversation too. Where is Spencer Rattler going to go? That's the big question mark heading into rounds 2, 3, and 4 of this draft. Where does a South Carolina quarterback go? And how do people view him? Is he a hot commodity? Do people trade up to get him? Or does he sit all the way till like the third round? That's a big question mark to me that I want to find out tomorrow in the NFL draft. But Falcons fans, how do you guys feel? Your team drafted a player you simply did not need. And Bills fans, talk to me. Buffalo Bills fans, how do you feel? Your team not only didn't get a receiver, you didn't even draft a single player in the first round. That's got to be weird for you guys. But Vikings fans, you got to be ecstatic. And it was a really fun first round of the draft. I really enjoyed it. It flew by. It really did. I was just enthralled. I love watching. It makes me miss football. I mean, it's been only 2 months, really, since football ended. A little over 2 months now. And I miss watching things live. And I know the UFL is on. It's just not the same. I don't care the same as I do about the NFL. And I'm so excited for football to be back in August. It really is going to be. We got a while between now and then. And I want live events to be happening again that I care about. I want football back. I watch F1, and basically, I'm just waiting till the NFL season starts again. And I'm sure I'll watch some baseball games here and there. I'll try to watch the United Football League when I can. But NFL is something I really miss, and I'm excited for it to come back. All right. Let's end today's show by answering questions on Patreon. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. Patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. It's $1 a month. You can donate more if you want to, please do. But $1 a month gives you access to submit questions on Patreon. I do not guarantee to read your question on the show. My only guarantee, I look at every single write-in with my eyeballs, and I pick the top couple to read on the show. Jeffrey writes in first. Jeffrey says, "Hello, Zach and your eyeballs. With the Masters starting this morning at the time of me sending this message, I was curious what your thoughts are on golf. Do you have any interest in the sport, or have you ever played it? Thanks as always. Hope you're doing well, Jeffrey." I've never played a round of golf in my life. I've thrown a disc golf a couple times. I've played putt-putt golf, like mini golf, I guess. My college quarterback room, we all did mini golf during fall camp and during spring ball. Mini golf was our thing we did as a group. So I've done mini golf before, and I've done it on dates and stuff too. Never, ever have I hit, I played baseball as a kid. I would imagine I can kind of swing and get torque, but hitting a baseball versus hitting a golf ball is a vastly different mechanical thing, even though there are some slight similarities. I've never golfed in my life. I kind of want to get into golf because a friend of mine, Tristan, he likes golfing, and that might be a way to he's really cool. I like Tristan. I'm like, I want to hang out with Tristan, and he golfs a lot. Maybe I can go golfing with him, but also I would suck. So maybe he suggested just going to the driving range, and I could do that. I could just learn how to hit balls really far, but I would be doing it because I want to be involved with people socially. Golf itself doesn't interest me that much. I'm not going to lie to you. It seems very complicated. It seems like a sport that would require a tremendous amount of effort and energy to be any good at, and I don't really want to give it that. I want to do other stuff with my time. If I'm going to be outside all day, I'd rather be hiking or backpacking or doing other things than just at a golf course. But I understand the appeal. You hang out with your friends all day. You're outside. It's light. It's easy going. You can be drinking if you want. I understand the appeal of golf. It's also kind of a rich guy thing. Like I don't, that's the part. I grew up very poor in the city. I lived in a mobile home. My family was homeless as a kid. Like golf was not a thing I was exposed to at all. So that the economic side, the culture of golf being that I'm kind of a blue collar guy. I work in HVAC. Like I'm not exactly like a banker, you know? I am moving into sales. So it's a bit of I wear a collared shirt now to work instead of, and I literally have to I dress up a little bit now for work because I'm doing sales rather than, getting grease all over me wearing just a regular blue shirt. But, and I still do some stuff with tools occasionally just because I'm pretty valuable to my company and I've got a lot of skills. But I'm on the sales side now, and that is a bit more, you're dealing with clients and maybe people want to go golfing with you. I get it. I'm in that world a little bit, but long story short, I've never golfed before. I'm not that interested in it, but I want to go to the driving range so I can hang out with my friend Tristan, and we'll see what happens there. Connor writes in. Connor says, oh, and by the way, the culture of golf, some of the people that are involved with golf, I can't stand them. Like the dude bro-y, fratty nature of golf, I really don't mess with. I'm kind of a private introvert, man, and that attitude, whatever that is, the country club vibe maybe. I don't like that at all. I just don't I'm a chill guy. I'm not a judgmental guy. I mean, I guess, what is this show? I guess I do judge things, but I'm intimidated, I guess, by the culture of golf and the fear of being judged myself and getting treated badly by snobby people that maybe aren't very nice. But I don't know. That's my impression vaguely of golf after working in really nice neighborhoods and living in Hawaii and, frankly, doing a lot of work in rich people's houses that golf, and they were kind of rude. And I'm like, is that the culture? Are all golfers like that? I have no idea, but I don't know. Golf, it's a world that I don't know I'm ever going to get into, but I see the appeal. I get it a little bit. Connor writes in. Connor says, Mr. Schaumler, I submitted this a bit ago, but I figured I'd repost it since you addressed the Steelers situation last episode. I asked this question a few weeks ago, not really expecting an answer. However, this is something I'd love to get your opinion on. I would love to hear a way too early top 25 for college football. Who are your favorite dark horse teams for the expanded college football playoff? And what do you think of the exodus of Pac-12 teams? How is that going? How are they going to fare in their new conferences? Anyway, you're a G, Connor. Connor, I'm not going to give you a top 25 early on for college football. I couldn't do that. But I can tell you the teams I'm interested in for college football this fall. It's going to be an unbelievably fun season of college football. There's a lot going on. Number one, it's obviously we're going to get an expanded college football playoff. That's going to be incredible. We're also seeing new teams and new conferences we've never seen before. The Pac-12 is totally gone. Oregon's now a Big Ten team. Washington, USC, UCLA, they're in the Big Ten now. Utah is somewhere else. Colorado's somewhere else. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how the former Pac-12 schools do. Sure, that's interesting. But for me, the number one storyline actually in college football this year, there's two of them, I guess. It's Ohio State and Alabama. Ohio State's new offensive coordinator is Chip Kelly, the guy who engineered tremendous success at Oregon, who was an incredible head coach at Oregon, who then went to the NFL, then went to UCLA. Chip Kelly, I think, was so tired of recruiting, so tired of dealing with the NIL and begging players to come play for him at UCLA. He said, you know what? I don't want to be a head coach anymore. And Chip Kelly did the craziest move I've seen, a move you just rarely see. He said, I don't want to be head coach of UCLA anymore. I'm going to go be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. And by the way, he might have just saved the job of Ryan Day, the head coach at Ohio State. Although it might be also a bit of a hostile takeover. If Chip Kelly is the reason why they win, I could see Ryan Day getting fired and Chip Kelly being elevated to head coach of Ohio State, which would be a pretty wild little move to sneak your way in and then kick out the head coach and take over the whole kingdom. That would be fascinating if Chip Kelly ever became the head coach of Ohio State. But I don't think Chip Kelly wants the responsibility of being the head coach. I think he wants to be the guy who plays chess, who does all of the X's and O's and enjoys the strategy and the game planning of being an offensive coordinator. without the responsibility of running a college football program. So I think Chip Kelly to Ohio State is fascinating. His new quarterback is Will Howard, who played at K-State. He committed to USC, then eventually ended up actually going to Ohio State instead because USC had Miller Moss. So, look, Ohio State is going to be really fun to watch this year in college football. Then at Alabama, Nick Saban has retired. He walked away. So they've got Kalen DeBoer, the former Washington coach who got them to the college football playoff. Alabama's new head coach, Kalen DeBoer. How does he do? How does he work with, why can't I remember the name of Alabama? Jalen Milroe. I think that's going to be really interesting. How does Alabama do in year one without Nick Saban? What happens to that program? Cameron Ward is a new quarterback in Miami. I cannot wait to watch that. I think Cameron Ward is a player who very likely could be the best quarterback in college football. I know that's a shocking prediction, a shocking, outlandish maybe idea, but I think Cameron Ward, I watched a lot of him play at Washington State. He is an unbelievable talent at the quarterback position. Like literally got the capabilities of a Patrick Mahomes, where he can make any kind of throw all over the field and do stuff outside of the pocket you cannot even believe. Cameron Ward might win the Heisman Trophy this year at Miami, literally. I mean, he's going to really, I think, do very, very well and absolutely grab the attention of the college football world. Miller Moss is at USC. He was supposed to lose his job. Remember, Caleb Williams is leaving for the NFL, and this guy, Will Howard, was going to transfer in and take his job out of Kansas State. But guess what? Caleb Williams sat out of the bowl game to try to, I guess, the story is Caleb Williams wanted Miller Moss to get an opportunity to show the world what he could do, and Miller Moss, what did he have, 6 or 7 touchdowns in the bowl game? He was unbelievable, and basically said, nah, this is my job. I'm going to be the quarterback, and it scared Will Howard away. He was supposed to transfer in, so Miller Moss is the quarterback at USC this year. What's going to happen there? That's a really fun question mark. Oregon's in the Big Ten. They just got Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback out of Oklahoma, to transfer in. That's going to be fun. What happens to Michigan? Michigan's in their first year without Jim Harbaugh. I can't imagine Michigan doesn't have just a total, what do they call it? The Super Bowl hangover, whatever that is for the team that wins a national title. Michigan just lost everybody. Head coach, quarterback, ton of great players. I mean, man, guys leaving for the NFL. Michigan without Jim Harbaugh is going to be very interesting and definitely not the same. Colorado's entering year 2 with Deion Sanders as head coach. That's going to be quite an interesting trip. I mean, I can't wait to see what happens with Colorado this year. That's going to be fun. Georgia's incredible. Frankly, Georgia's probably the best team in college football still. I thought they got robbed out of an opportunity to compete for the national title last year. They lost one game, and that, I don't know. The way things worked out last year, not allowing Georgia into the top 4 in college football, into the college football playoff, was very weird. Now with 12 teams, Georgia's going to get in for sure this year and probably win it all. Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC. That's fascinating. And Texas is really interesting. They got Quinn Ewers, who I love at quarterback. But Arch Manning in the Texas spring game threw for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns. If Texas doesn't have a great start to the year, you know people are going to be begging for Arch Manning, Peyton Manning's nephew, to be playing quarterback at Texas. And it's just a bizarre scenario. I don't know what's going to happen. And if you're Quinn Ewers and you lose your job to Arch Manning, do you transfer? I mean, he's transferred multiple times in college football. So does he do it again? Where do you go if you're Quinn Ewers? I think he really is like an NFL-level quarterback. He's an outstanding quarterback. He's just unfortunately got Arch Manning behind him. It's a weird scenario. And if Texas doesn't win quickly in the SEC, early on in the year, I think a lot of people are going to be begging and demanding that Arch Manning become the quarterback at Texas. Can Clemson bounce back, man? That's a big question. What is Clemson going to do this year with Dabo Swinney? I mean, there's going to be 12 teams in the college football playoff. It's more likely they make it in this year. But I don't know that they're the same program they've been. And they've been in the past with Dabo Swinney. Things are really changing. The NIL has changed a lot of stuff. College football recruiting is not the same it was before. I think Clemson is totally out of their depth. Dabo Swinney does not appear to be adapting very well to this new college football landscape. And I think Clemson is not going to bounce back the way they probably need to become what they once were, a team that competed for and won national titles. Florida State's got DJ Uiagalelei at quarterback. That's going to be really interesting. And then one team that no one else, I guarantee you, people that talk about the teams they're excited to watch in college football, nobody else is going to talk about Arizona State. Jaden Rashada, their quarterback, is transferring out, or he's in the transfer portal, going to Georgia apparently, which is wild. He's a really talented quarterback. And what does Arizona State look like without Jaden Rashada? They've got Kenny Dillingham, an awesome head coach I really like, but they don't have a quarterback. They don't have a lot of talent. I wonder what's going to happen. I mean, at this point right now, Arizona State is a feeder program where they let quarterbacks play for a year and then send guys off to the SEC to have better careers with better programs. And I don't know what's going to happen with Arizona State this year, but I just find that fascinating. What's going to happen? They lost their quarterback. They're in a new conference. They got a lot of challenges, but there's also a lot of money, a lot of interest at Arizona State. What happens to Arizona State this year in college football? They're probably going to be terrible. I'm probably the only person interested in them, but nonetheless, I can't help but look at the car wreck that is Arizona State football. And I like their head coach, Kenny Dillingham. I just think he's got a really tough set of, tasks ahead of him to try to make Arizona State a winning program. And I don't know that he's going to do that, but I really like him, and I'm fascinated by Arizona State as a program in general. Jay writes in. Jay says, "Hi, Big Z. Last week you talked about how Reggie Bush should have his Heisman Trophy returned. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I would disagree. I'll admit I don't have much of an argument beyond it was against the rules at the time, but maybe it's because Johnny Manziel tweeted it should be returned and I can't stand the guy. But I would love to hear your opinion. Love the show. Sending you good vibes from Minnesota." No, Reggie Bush is getting his Heisman Trophy returned, which is really cool. Jay, sounds like you're not in favor of that. I am. Here's why. The NIL has changed college football, and we've seen players make millions of dollars with sponsorships. And Reggie Bush got in trouble for like $300,000 getting paid to him, or getting paid to his dad, I think. And it cost him his Heisman Trophy. It's really hard to watch a player like Reggie Bush, who was so iconic when I was a kid, get punished for taking a little bit of money when last year's quarterback at USC, Caleb Williams, is living literally in like a penthouse suite with an incredible view in Los Angeles. You're like, well, what? We're paying guys ungodly amounts of money now to play college football, but a guy who took a little bit of money under the table years ago, that's the problem. It's just weird, and I think it's an inconsistent logic. Sure, it was illegal at the time. Who cares now? And I think it really bothered me when the Heisman Trophy was talking about the Heisman Trophy, like trust or whatever that the organization is the Heisman Trophy. They were talking about the passing of O.J. Simpson and how sad they were. And I was like, you're sad about a murderer dying, but you won't give Reggie Bush his Heisman Trophy back? That's just weird to me, the logic. And I think they got called out a lot. And clearly, I don't know if that, the way they handled the O.J. Simpson death, got so much attention. They were like, we just got to save some face PR-wise and give Reggie Bush his trophy back or what. But I personally am very, very glad to see Reggie Bush getting his Heisman Trophy back. He earned it. He really, say whatever you want about how he got paid off the field. He was the best player in college football. He deserved it the year he won, and he deserves to have that trophy still. And I'm glad he got it back. George writes in. George says, "Hey, Zach Attack. I wanted to start off by saying that I'm glad you got your parking situation resolved." Me too. Oh my gosh. Hopefully the hassle of getting your car broken into wasn't too bad. It was pretty bad, but whatever. I've been enjoying watching your updates on Instagram, and it seems that you are becoming more comfortable and fulfilled living in Portland. I love my life. I'm very happy right now. As for my question, George says, "I really admire your communication skills and your ability to hold a conversation by yourself for hours at a time, as evidenced by the podcast. Where does that come from?" Was that something that came to you naturally? Or is it something you developed throughout your childhood with family and friends? Is it just in relation to topics you were passionate about? I'm curious because it is an excellent skill to have. I have the gift of gab, unfortunately, whatever that means. And what's weird, though, is actually in real life, I got to be comfortable before I really open up and will talk to you. I am my most quiet in a big group. In a big group, like at a party where there's a lot of people I don't know, or even a lot of people I do know, but there's just a lot of voices going on, I tend to be quiet and allow myself to be background character unless prompted, and then I'll go crazy. And I really can't talk forever about anything. As far as doing a podcast by myself, George, I really had to develop that skill. I mean, go back and watch the first couple episodes of Strong Opinion Sports and see how far we've come and how far the show has changed and how far I've come as a podcaster. I mean, you do 639 episodes of anything, you're going to get better at talking for sure. But then I think my strength really, truly is conversation in a small group or even in a one-on-one setting. It's why I'm a good salesman, dude. I really, first of all, I think I'm a good salesman because I'm not really a salesman. I'm trying to help people and share solutions with them, but I'm never pushing and never trying to get someone to buy something. I'm just telling them what their options are, and hopefully they respect my approach and respect that I don't put any pressure on actually. I'm consistent with communicating. I follow up a lot with customers, and I'll be like, hey, I'm thinking about you. It's been about a week since we talked. I don't know if you still need air conditioning. I'd love to help you figure that out if you do. And we love your business. And I consistently keep in contact, and that works pretty well with customers actually, is I don't push, but I remind them I'm still out there and would love to talk with them and help them make a decision that's best for them. And that approach really works. But I think the key to being a good conversationalist in a one-on-one setting is not talking, actually. It's listening. You have to ask really good questions. And I just tend to be really genuinely interested in people. I love hearing their story. I love hearing why they believe what they believe. And so, I don't know what your question is. How did this happen? How did I become a good talker? I honestly, I like talking a lot. But if you want to be good at conversation, George, in a one-on-one setting, I really believe the key to that is to have... What did I got in my training? I'm doing sales training right now. They said literally 7% of communication is the words you speak. A lot of it's body language and a lot of it's tone and inflection. But I would say, man, if you want to be good at conversation, learn to listen. Learn to ask really good questions that are, frankly, follow-ups to the things people are already talking about. When you see someone light up about a topic, ask them about it, and then ask them about it even more, and ask really good follow-up questions that are related to what they've been talking about. That comes really naturally for me because I'm just genuinely really curious, but I'm also, I think, pretty good at inflection, which means lowering and raising your tone of voice and making your tone of voice match what the person you're talking to needs from them to make them comfortable and fit the vibe, basically. And I think inflection is something I'm outstanding at. So yeah, those are my thoughts, George. I don't know if I answered your question exactly, but those are my thoughts on what you said. I said Joe Shez. My mouth is very dry. Joe says, "What's up, Zach? I see that as far as the prospect of having kids goes, you seem to have changed your tune a bit. I remember a few years ago you saying on the show that kids were not happening ever. And now you seem to at least be open to kids, if not totally for it. I think you'd be an excellent father, but I'm curious what changed, if anything, for you. Love from Spokane, Joe." I'm really excited for people to hear the first couple episodes of the other podcast I've been working on. I suppose I can say it now. We have a YouTube channel. There's one video on the YouTube channel. It's actually unpublished, so you can't even watch it unless I send you the link. But I do have an RSS feed for the podcast. The podcast with my buddy Austin is going to be called Unchecked Boxes. It's really, it's just a spiritual continuation of Zach Schaumler talking. So the logos have the same colors. It's very, and I think they're going to be Zach Schaumler talking and Unchecked Boxes are going to be parallel podcasts that at some point I'm actually scheduling another recording, an interview for Zach Schaumler Talking actually in a week or two, which is kind of wild. So Zach Schaumler Talking is going to come back, and soon you'll also have 12 episodes of Unchecked Boxes out you can listen to. But when you hear the first couple episodes of Unchecked Boxes, you really hear Zach Schaumler, me, in December, like heartbroken. I got broken up with. I'm moving back to the mainland. It's very weird. And I'm talking to Austin, one of my best friends in the world, who is a father and is so responsible. And you're going to see over the past 6 months we've been doing the podcast, I just evolve and I change a lot over time. Like I'm re-watching those episodes as I edit them and get them ready to put out. And it's like, man, I was in a very different place of life 6 months ago, and I've really evolved and grown and learned. And one of the things that really gave me a lot of comfortability and confidence was Austin telling me, like, Zach, if you want to be a good dad, you will be. Like, you're the kind of person who, he was talking to me, he said, Zach, you're the kind of person that when you put high levels of effort and energy into something, you tend to do well. And he's like, you're really patient, you're really kind. If you want to be a great dad, you'll be a great dad. The question is, do you want to be? And that's a great question. I'm not sure. To be totally honest with you guys, I met my wife, like, pretty much, like, I know it's very early. We live together. I've never met someone who I was comfortable maybe having kids with before meeting her. She's like the most patient, incredible, kind person ever. Like, she'll be a great mom if we want to do that. And we're in the same boat. Like, the barrier to having kids right now is money. It's like, I don't want to have kids if the kids aren't going to have a great life. If I can't support them financially, or if the world is so messed up, like if we're on the brink of World War III, literally, or like we have a crazy World War breakout, obviously I'm not going to have kids because I don't want to bring kids into that kind of world. So me and my girlfriend, Molly, we're very serious. I just, between you and me, I'm going to marry her. She knows that. Her mom knows that. We talk about it. She's the best thing that probably ever happened to me. Like, she's really helped me get my life back on track. Actually, it's very, I'm very fortunate. And she's just the best. And I could totally see myself having kids with her. So my tune has totally changed for a lot of reasons. I'm kind of accepting, like, when my engagement ended a couple years ago and Strong Opinion Sports fell apart, I was so depressed and hopeless and sad, and I just gave up for a while. I was like, I really felt like I didn't want to participate in society at all. I'm like, I'm going to live in my truck, I'm going to work a dumb job and just save money and live off the grid, basically. I really felt that way. And in the last year, I've kind of like, no, I want to participate in society. No, I want to be a normal person. And now I really want to have I've got an idea of what my life could look like. And I'm like, man, I'm fighting really hard to build a different career now that supports me financially and is really stable, so I can have more of a traditional life, actually, and have a wife and have kids and have a house someday. I mean, and those are all possibilities now that didn't feel like they were before. And I just, talking to my friends, doing a lot of personal growth, going to therapy, I've just evolved and changed a lot in the last 6 months. And I really went hard. I got my ex-girlfriend before, she dumped me and left me in Hawaii by myself. Let's be honest about that. And it was brutal. And it made me be like, okay, I need therapy so bad. And I went to therapy twice a week for months, and it was like boot camp. I was like, dude, I gotta fix myself. And I made tremendous growth, and I think a lot of improvement very quickly. And I'm in a better place than ever before, emotionally, financially, everything. And having kids now is on the table for me. It's a soft, like, both me and Molly have talked about it. Like, we're not sure, and we both are comfortable not knowing, not having an answer, but it really comes down to financially. Like, if I can afford to have kids, I want to have kids. I think it'd be really interesting I think that being a dad would be so rewarding, and I know I'd be good at it. And so, yeah, my perspective has changed as I've changed a lot in the last 6 months. And Joe, I appreciate you noticing that. That's really interesting. Kenny writes in. Kenny says, hello, Zaddy. I hate that still, but I'll read it. I will read it. Kenny says, hello, Zaddy. So recently I had an epiphany of how I graduated high school 4 years ago. In the tumultuous year of 2020, it made me think about my time in high school and all the people that I used to know and the times that I have spent with them. So my question is, how was your time in high school, and did you enjoy it or not? If so, how? As always, thank you for being you. Kenny, high school was weird for me. I mean, I was a quarterback. I was kind of the man in many ways. Like, everyone knew who I was, but I transferred in as a junior to a new school, from an inner city school to, frankly, like a rich suburban school. And I was at a rich suburban school where I lived in a mobile home, and I drove a car that I got for free from a drug dealer that had black mold, and I had to like clean it and get it running. So like everyone else around me at my high school, my junior, senior year, were people I didn't know, but they knew me because I was a local quarterback in the area. They all drove like BMWs and Range Rovers and Lexuses, and I'm driving like literally a beater Jetta with no muffler that is like insanely loud and barely works, living in a mobile home. I didn't feel like I fit in culturally in my second high school. All my friends went to other high schools, actually. Like, my best friends in the world went to our rival high school, and I was closer with them. I just fit in better with them. So high school was weird for me because I was so focused on football. I think people liked me, just they didn't know me very well. I didn't create a lot of deep relationships with the people I went to high school with my junior, senior year. And high school was I was just focused on football, man. I really didn't do much other than that, which I do regret to some degree. Like, I should have branched out a little more and maybe been more other. Like, now I've got so many interests beyond football, but back then I was just locked in, like, only football all the time. And did I enjoy football? Did I enjoy high school? Not particularly. It was fine. But I think I got really good at learning how to navigate social situations, honestly, which was probably the best thing I got out of that. Was in high school, you're around so many people all the time, and if you want to use that to develop people skills, you totally can. And I would encourage you to do that if you're a young person listening. Use your time in high school and college around other people your age to learn how to navigate a social environment and social situations, because when you're out in the real world, learning how to handle things with grace and how to navigate uncomfortability is very important. And I learned that early on in high school and college, which really helps me now to this day. Colin writes in. Colin says, "Hey, Zach, I loved your answers about the dream car last week. I drive a Scion FRS." And he's got more, but I wonder, what does a Scion FRS look like? I don't even know. Scion FRS. Let's look up this car. What does it look like? Oh man. It's like a sports car. It's a coupe. It's got 2 doors, and it looks really fun to drive, actually. How long is it? What's the wheelbase look like on this thing? Okay, dude, this interesting, very interesting, Colin. That car. Where are you located? Okay. So I drive a Scion FRS, he says, which was also sold as the Subaru BRZ and Toyota 86. So yeah, that's an awesome car. I mention this because that means it's co-developed between Toyota and Subaru, 2 of your favorite brands. It is also, along with the Nissan Z Series, one of the main competitors to the Miata as a modern, lightweight, and relatively affordable Japanese sports car. No questioner, just wanted to say that you're super valid in that take. Those cars are a ton of fun. Not going to win any races, but they're super fun on back roads and easy to make your own. My car was rated in the Top Gear Car of the Year in 2012 over the Pagani in second place. So the idea that a cheap Japanese sports car being better than a supercar like a Ferrari, that's not a crazy idea at all. Colin, thanks for writing in, man. Where in the world do you live? Because if you live anywhere near me, I would happily, if you would ever let me, sit in your car with you and let you drive me around. That would be so fun. If you're in like Boston or Minnesota, I would love to travel someday to like buy you lunch, film a podcast with you, and then drive around in your car like comedians in cars getting coffee or something. That'd be super fun, Colin. Your car sounds awesome, and I'd love to meet you someday if that's ever possible. Like, that's, as I'm getting better financially and like paying off debt and getting myself out of debt, and maybe eventually having money to go travel and, you know, use the HVAC money to do fun stuff. Those are the kind of vacations I want to take. I want to travel to meet people who listen to the show and meet them, maybe make content with them, and just kind of, that's just an experience I want. That was what I want to do with the road trip. I want to connect with people, and Colin, that would be awesome to do someday. Lucas writes in. Lucas says, "Sup, Z-Dog? Congrats on getting rid of your credit card debt. That's awesome to hear, and I'm confident you'll get everything else figured out too. You have a good head on your shoulders and a proper mindset. I have an off-topic question today. What is the weirdest artist, band, or genre that you listen to? For example, my favorite artist is Marty Robbins, a 1950s cowboy ballads singer. I don't have any like favorites that are weird. Like I listen to Noah Kahan and John Bellion. Benson Boone is amazing. Like slow it down, take a moment now. It's an amazing song I love. Deep and dirty water full of hope, a stout. I shouldn't sing it. But I'm pretty like soulful and listen to like acoustic guitar music and Noah Kahan. You know, he's like, it's like folk music basically. But the weirdest music I listen to, it's very, how do I say this? There are certain substances you can take that grow in the forest that are very natural that you can take that make you have a fun little time. Sometimes you cut them up and you put them on pizza. Those ones that you buy at Pizza Hut tend to not be enhanced with fun stuff. But I would call the type of music that I listen to occasionally psychedelic. And Bonobo is actually, like, Bonobo is really cool. What is the one? I've got a little list of musicians that my friend showed me that are just like, they're for getting psychedelic. They're wild. They're different. I want to find it because it was quite interesting. Okay, hold on. I know this is terrible radio, but it really is worth it. Bonobo, come on. I bet if I just type it in, I'll find it. Bonobo. Okay, Tycho, Bonobo, and it's not here. I was gonna. There's one really weird named called. I'll never find it. I really will never find it. It's called like Spleen or Schmoob, or it's got some weird name. Can I? I don't want to clear recent searches. Yeah, I'll never find it. But Bonobo, the Black Sands album, it's just very. It's not even psychedelic's not even the right word. It's really vibey. Like you get in the right headspace. It's mostly like instrumentals and like listen to, go to Spotify or Apple Music, wherever you listen to music, look up Bonobo, 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 and play the Black Sands album next time you're doing dishes or going for a walk or something. Like it's fun instrumentals that are great. And that's the weirdest. I don't listen to very much weird stuff. That's for sure the weirdest thing I listen to. But there's this one artist, I'll have to find out who it is and talk to you and tell you guys next time. His name is like Schmooby or Spleen or like Schmeppy or so there's some like weird music where it's like it's like they've got like the Maori culture music. They've got some of the throat music. It's very like it's a mix of all these different genres. They do weird stuff with instruments that like you've never heard of before. And that's psychedelic music for sure. And it's made for tripping on acid and stuff. And it's unbelievable weird music that makes you it's just a different type of, that's the weirdest thing I listen to, but I can't even remember the name because I've only listened to it like twice. And that would be the weirdest pull I could possibly have that's come out of my Spotify in the last year. But I can't even remember the name. So sorry, Lucas. I did my best. Last question of the day. It's a question. It's a write-in. I don't even know if there is a question here, but it's definitely an interesting write-in. Michael says, you asked for comments last time, and I would like to say that even though scheduling is a disaster, the best shows you have are the ones where you talk to people. When you do an episode, it feels like you're almost trying to organize your thoughts and frame the game or the trade in your mind, i.e. Russell Wilson now versus pre-Broncos. Because you're a very empathetic person, it seems like you shine when you are talking to someone else about their fandom. You really listen well and draw out other people's stories. Josh Pate does a mood tracker for every fan base in college football during the slow times between seasons. If you really want to have something that shows that off, maybe find some guys in the YouTube space or Patreon for each team and have an hour-long conversation about their team and why they love their team. If the audience responds well and you like them, they can become recurring like that franchise guy, Marcus Whitman. And then he says, P.S. Here are some pseudonyms for weed. I think he means synonyms, maybe pseudonyms is the right word there. Sin spinach, Peruvian parsley, Haitian oregano, or Jamaican jewel. And then PPS, becoming competent at something really helps solve failures in your life. At least if you suck at listening to your girlfriend, you can go to work and really make someone's life better by doing your job well. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate the write-in. Here's what I want to highlight here. I have tried recently with, and these are not even with, like I have a podcast scheduled with a stranger I've never met who listens to the show, and we're going to do a Zach Shelmer talking episode soon. That'll be very cool. But I have a couple friends of mine I've tried to do podcasts with in the last month. And you might remember there was a period where the show didn't happen for like 2 weeks. There was a 2-week period where I was just scheduling and rescheduling a podcast interview I had. Like every couple of days, rescheduling it because the guy kept flaking and kept changing. Here's my point. Basically, trying to do a podcast with another human that is not me, Zach Schaumler, is so incredibly difficult. You know, trying to pair up the schedules is really hard already. But then also, other people just are not as committed to your thing as you are to your thing. I am the most committed person to Strong Opinion Sports there will ever be. Other people that are guests on the show just simply don't care as much. And trying to do podcasts with other people is really hard because other people bail a lot. Like more than you would realize. I encourage anyone, try to have guests on a podcast. If you're not Joe Rogan, who's going to help them tremendously, they're not going to care very much and not going to give you very much effort and not give you very much commitment to scheduling. So it's very tough to do that. And that's a thing I've been fighting recently. Guys, I love you. I appreciate you. It is very early in the morning or very late at night, depending on how you are, who you are, and how you are. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to put this out. I will talk to you again next week. We'll talk about what I want to do, by the way, is put out a thread on Patreon where people can write in all about their team and their draft and how it went. I want to do a draft-oriented Patreon episode next week. So if you're on Patreon, look for that. Until then, though, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. I still cannot believe the Falcons drafted Michael Penix Jr. on number 8 overall. Good luck to him, but what a weird, redundant move that I don't understand. I don't know why the Bills didn't go get a receiver, and I don't know that Matt Eberflus is going to be the head coach long-term in Chicago when all of their talent is on the offensive side of the football. But please write in. Tell me how you felt about your favorite team, how you felt about their draft, how you feel about the direction of the franchise. I want to hear from you guys about your fandom and your favorite team. So write in, please. Have a great day. I love you. Enjoy rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the draft. And I'll see you next week to recap the rest of the draft. Until next time, bam, we are done.